Or try. Can you guys see me now? Hi. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes, okay. I don't know. I mean, I did it, but I probably didn't do it right. I'm just new at this. Okay. Well, hello, QP and Paul. Good to see you. Um, I'll have to back up and start over because I probably won't record the other one. Or save it. Um, thank you. I was talking about Delores Cannon. She's really big and well known. 50-year career. QHHT, quantum. Oh, geez, I'll have to look it up again. Let me see. I always forget. I had to write it down. QHHT stands for Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. Oh. And you can get trained in it. And I had a past life regression. And I think this is what, I don't know which she uses, but I never heard of QHHT. That's new as of 6 months ago for me, within that time, maybe sooner. And, well, no, it depends whether your smoking was because of a past life, I suppose. No, that's a different kind, where they implant a suggestion that, you don't like it or don't want it or that sort of thing. Hello, Zane. Welcome to my room. And because the hypnosis is used a lot for anxiety and stress and habits and that sort of thing. There are certain psychiatrists and other people that believe that past lives have a lot to do with some of our anxieties and our fears and our, relationship trouble. Oh, well, yeah, the last one, I don't know what was going on. I'll have to look into that. Who knows? It's supposed to be, maybe I'm supposed to invite everybody to it. I don't know. I have no idea. Anyway, what happens is sometimes when people have a past life where they had some relationship that was difficult with someone that they have in this life as well, and they didn't work it out there and they're having trouble here, sometimes they work those problems out in hypnosis. There's a lot of authors out there that talk about it. Hi. Is it Keel? Welcome to my room. Nice to see you. We're talking about the benefits of hypnotherapy. I mean, people have a lot of misconceptions about it. And I can tell you that when I did it, I was totally aware of myself. That when she took me back to a past life, it was kind of like um, watching a very, like a home movie almost, or a lucid dream where you're there, you're aware, you're participating, but then you're not really there. It's like a memory that's been made into a movie, and it's very powerful. Well, I look at hypnosis. If you're not comfortable with it, um, by all means, don't do it. Me, I'm bold. I'm courageous. I was curious, and I knew from my medical training that this was done as therapy, and that I wasn't going to be afraid of it. Hi, Tammy. Good to see you. Anyway, so here I was, being, put into this, I guess you could say, hypnagogic kind of state where you're still aware, but you're like asleep, kind of, but not asleep. I could hear her voice and everything. And I knew her really well, so I didn't feel like she was going to do anything. She was a good friend. So that was, not an issue. Of course, you wouldn't do it with someone you didn't trust. Um, I will put a list of books of people that have done other types of past life therapy. And there was one doctor who, I think it's David Weiss, had a patient who nobody was able to help her. And she had all these anxieties. She was almost frozen from function because of her fears, phobias. And yeah, so you're right, Zane. She was, this woman did this, and she was really kind of out there. Even in my book, she was pretty interesting lady. I'm not going to say she was right or wrong because, there's one thing I've learned. I can't speak in absolutes anymore. And I used to, and that was like when I was stupid. I don't talk that way anymore. I don't act like I know everything because I sure don't. And she did everything from, let me go look at the page I was looking at. She has a YouTube channel. I'll put that up. And Alba Weinmann also has YouTube things where she shows what happens in a past life regression of that kind. So if you're curious, you can see that it's. I don't think it's something dangerous. But I mean, if you weren't comfortable, if you didn't have a need for it, like, they have different types where they'll do a whole room of people to help them quit smoking or reduce their eating or whatever. In those cases, that's not the same kind of thing. It's a little different. But I certainly wouldn't do it with anyone that wasn't certified and wasn't trustworthy and, licensed and all that stuff, because it's considered a medical kind of therapy. At least some of it is. And anyway, the past life that I went to, and I've had several. I've had a couple of dreams that showed me some past lives. And I've also had another psychic tell me about a past life where I was scalped by Indians, or my husband was killed by Indians and Native Americans, and my kids and I were left to starve, and it was just horrific. I'm going, she says, well, that's probably why you like to surround yourself with so many books and things like that, because it makes me feel comfortable that I'll never be in want. I have too much stuff. And she says that might be an indication why you have this fear of not having enough, which I don't really have so much anymore. But when you grow up rather poor and everything, that can happen. Okay, Keel, nice to see you. Please come next week. You're all welcome every week. Anyway, so basically she took me to, sometimes they take you to a room with different doors, and then you go down steps and into into a past life, or you'll go into a meadow and you go down a hill. I mean, it's always, you seem to be always going down into the past. And I was in, yeah, Isaac, take care. I was in this past life in India, and that she asks you, look at your feet. So you always look at yourself, and you're in body, just like in a lucid dream. You're in body, and you look at your feet. And I had sandals on, or I was barefoot. I don't know which. It was like something like that. And I was wearing a long, like toga-looking thing, or robe. Sari, I guess, is what it was. And she takes me, asks me, well, what do I see and what's going on? And I say, well, I'm fetching water from the well or the lake, probably some water source, probably a well, big, huge pot, they put on their heads and carry around. And I said, there's soldiers attacking my village. But usually it takes you back to some important moment in your past. And this was an important moment. She takes me back further later. But at that moment, I'm watching my village being attacked by soldiers from another place. I don't know who they were. There's been lots of conflicts over the centuries in India, never ending, just like anywhere else. And they just came through and killed like 3/4 of my village, or half my village, or something like that. It was just horrendous. And the thing that I said when I saw it, and what happened was, that was such an emotionally charged moment, seeing these people attacking my village when we were so poor and we had nothing. And that was the one thing that I said. I said, we don't have anything. Why are they killing us? I couldn't comprehend why anyone would kill so many innocent people that weren't soldiers and didn't have anything to take. And I still don't understand why people do this. It was something that never ceases to boggle my mind. And so I end up going back down. And then she says, well, let's go back to your childhood, because that's an upsetting moment. So, they often will take you back to a little safer place in your past. And I say, well, I'm living with my mother. I'm a little girl. But my mother's very sad because my father got killed he's a Sikh, and he got killed in a military conflict. And she didn't want to live anymore. She was my mother in this life as well. And my father, I'm not sure who he was in that life, but I was the apple of his eye and he was gone. So I guess I was closer to him than my mother. But he had married someone not of his caste. Now in India, they have different castes. And even now, marrying outside your caste is not encouraged. But back then, it was quite a negative thing. So when she died, because she died of a broken heart, I guess, when she died, they sent me back to my grandmother because his family didn't want me because I was not one of them. That was tainted. And so much for marrying for love, right? So I went back to my grandmother, to this little poor village. And she was the medicine lady, the healer, excuse me, the healer there, and herbs and whatnot. And she trained me to be what she was. And we had a wonderful relationship. She is my great-grandmother in this life, whom I never met here in this life, but I always felt a connection to. So that was kind of cool. Anyway, and a lot of jokes were going around to how, she would always mention that they made fun of her a lot, but whenever anybody got sick, that's who they came to, was her. She had a lot of, I guess you could say, they respected her a lot. And women in that culture aren't particularly respected. Not like she was. They knew that if they got sick, that they'd better rely on her. And she made remarks about how the men were such babies, about being sick and being hurt. Anyway, as time went on, she got older and older. Life progressed. And this was before the attack on the village. And she got it in her head that she wanted to see this guru in another town. And we'd have to walk, pretty much, maybe cart part of the way. We were poor. We didn't have wherewithal. So she wanted to go, and she was quite elderly, and it's like, it wasn't a good idea, but she was determined. And the women in my family, if they're determined, God help you. Apparently over the lifetimes as well. Anyway, so we go to this guru, and many, many people are there to hear this man speak. And it was the thrill of her life. She was so happy to see him. It's a big deal to her. Well, as we're coming back, she is struck down and ends up in bed. And I realize from her symptoms that she's had a stroke, probably on the right side. I'm not sure, but it affected her speech center. She couldn't really talk, and she was paralyzed on one side. Well, she didn't have long left, and so everybody came to the village to pay their respects, and she was extremely loved and respected. She finally died, and that was upsetting to me in the past life regression, because it's very real. It's real, but then not real. It's like, it's a memory, but it's a very vivid memory. Just like when you remember people you love that passed, it's still upsetting, right? So that was that. And it was interesting because I had shared a past life in India with a dear friend who passed January of 2018. And she also said someone else in our Reiki group was that we were sisters. And the one that was mean to me in my Reiki group was that sister. And she also was the one that Paula was not happy with, because she said she never asked me to forgive her for what she did in India. It's like, I said, these people are different, That's why I'm telling you that if they didn't know about QHHT and Delores Cannon, that she's new on the scene for at least me and for them. But anyway, I just want to let you know there was no time in which I felt vulnerable or unsafe. But then I'd say, if you ever had anything done, make sure it's somebody that you trust, someone that's gone to them that you trust, or that they're licensed and they have good reports. Look on Yelp. How are they rated? That sort of thing. But anyway, past lives give us a clue, apparently, what they say, as to what's going on. And this one man, I think it's David Weiss, that was helping this woman who was severely inhibited, that he went through her past lives to the traumatic injuries and deaths that she had. And as he cleared each one, she got better. And when they were all done, she was completely functional and didn't have to have any medications, and she went on with her life. She was frozen. She couldn't do anything. She was absolutely unable to function. and he basically cured her. So, I mean, this is a pretty important idea. And but like I said, unless, she didn't have anything to lose. She was desperate. And he was thinking of going the usual way, but when he started hypnotizing her, she went down into a past life without him taking her there. And he risked his career to explore that. And now he's written several books. He's interviewed. I have one of his past life regression CDs, but his voice is kind of annoying, so it's hard to really, really get into it. But there's lots of past life regression things on YouTube and stuff. I don't think it would hurt you to do any of those. It's sort of like a meditation, really. In a way, it is like, because I've done meditation where I know that I go into that state and have had lucid dreams or visions or something of that nature. So, and I'll talk about those sometime. Weird things. I have to get out what I wrote down at the time and the art that I did depicting it, because I drew what I saw. So, which is recommended when you have anything like that. Draw it, write it down, something. Like my daughter says, well, that's not how I remember. I said, did you write it down after it happened? I did. Oh, that's the secret, is write down what you remember. Anyway, so do any of you ever have any kind of hypnosis or guided meditation experience at all? Because guided meditation you can get on YouTube and everything, and those are really nice. And it's not really it's not hypnosis. It's just meditation and relaxation. Maybe I can learn to talk. And those are very good for stress relief and to help relax you and to just to give your whole being a little break. Nobody's talking. I hope it's not frozen. Oh, is it frozen? I can't even type. Can't talk or type. I'm one of those people that marijuana, I have to get, for my chronic pain stuff, I'd like to be able to use something other than my muscle relaxant to sleep. But apparently I got to get something really strong because I wasn't born with enough receptors, the cannabinoid receptors in the brain. Yeah, we're born with these. So what does that tell you, that we're like meant to smoke it? I don't know. But so I mean, everyone else is getting, lit a little bit and little giggly and everything. I'm just going, am I supposed to feel something yet? So, that's something I'll have to look into. It does help with a little bit with the pain. I do have to, I don't get high, but it does help with the pain. So I just need a little stronger dose. So maybe I can stop taking the artificial stuff. Anyway, let me tell you a few things about Delores Cannon real quick. She was born in St. Louis, Missouri in 1931. She lived and grew up with her family. Completed her academic studies in 1947. So she was like 16, just high school. Married her husband, Johnny, in 1951. Career naval guy. Spent 21 years traveling all over the world with him. Raised her family in the 50s and 60s until 1968, when several major events ultimately changed the course of her life. She was in the 60s. She and Johnny were using simple hypnosis for habits like stop smoking, lose weight. That's what most of you are familiar with, I'm sure. She was first introduced to reincarnation in 68. And she and her husband were asked by one of the doctors at the naval base in Texas to help one of his patients using hypnosis. The woman suffered from nervous eating disorder, was extremely obese, had high blood pressure, suffered from kidney problems. The doctor thought it would be extremely beneficial if hypnosis could help the woman relax. And this is a lot of people, this is the anxiety thing is a big deal. Hypnosis helps people with that. Midway through the session, the woman unexpectedly began describing scenes from past life where she was a flapper in Chicago in the Roaring 20s. And they watched as her personality completely transformed with different vocal patterns and body mannerisms. Now, I did not go that deep where I was exhibiting that. I was still more like watching a film kind of level. Some people go deeper than that and actually go into the personality. And unless the fact that my personality was the same then as it is now, that's always a possibility. So they've regressed her through 5 different distinct lifetimes. And the entire story is in the first book she wrote, 5 Lives Remembered. Now it says 2009 is the first book she wrote, and that's not actually true. She wrote some before that. So I don't know why their information is wrong here. Anyway, the last book she wrote was 2014, but she started writing them in the 70s, so huge number of books. And so she goes on and on. Once her children are grown, she starts practicing full-time. She would take on any case. She was, just wanted to learn more. And then she having conducted thousands of sessions with clients, recording the same results time and time again, spending vast amounts of time and energy verifying their clients' past lives, she came to her own conclusions about how it all worked and about the subconscious that exists, and she established her quantum healing hypnosis technique. And she goes in the 70s, 80s, which is, of course, the New Age blossoming time, which is New Age is kind of a misexpressed thing. And people misunderstand what it was. They'll call you a New Ager because as an insult. I said, we really don't know what that is. It was just Eastern philosophy was creeping into our culture through the Beatles and other groups, and just the fact that the hippies were grown up and some of them still kept interest in these things. And anyway, back to Delores. She wrote 2 books based on the work of this one client, female who she went through 25 lifetimes of jumping backwards in 100-year increments. And A Soul Remembers Hiroshima, in 1993 she wrote. And she just wrote book after book after book. And then she starts getting into, she gets, kind of bored with what she's doing. So she starts pushing to learn more. Excuse me. And that's when the subconscious put forth the idea that time does not really exist as man identifies with it. Every moment is now. Now, this is kind of an interesting idea that every moment is now. The past, present, future only exist in the now. And I mean, that's kind of, I mean, I'd have to sit and think about that one. But I mean, in a way, she said, time is simply the perspective we adopt. And she introduced that idea in The Keepers of the Garden in 93. So, I mean, she wrote 14, 15 books. Then she starts Regressed, a woman who began describing a life where she was a student of the French prophet Nostradamus. And she starts channeling him, basically communicating with him, supposedly. I mean, it gets, she's even out there in my book, and yet she's very respected. It's like, so she goes on that, and gets into, she attended a MUFON, Mutual UFO Network meeting, and she starts getting interested in ETs and extraterrestrials, life on other planets. And she writes books on that and on the convoluted universe, which, I'm going to have to get her books. That's all there is to it. I don't know enough. But and I'm thinking, concerning like the Mandela effect kind of thing going on. I wonder if she was around now, what would she think of that? Or would she just say, oh, yeah, sure. Her daughter, Julia, is carrying on the work. She lives in Canada, I believe. And she's writing books as well. So, I mean, this is like pretty cool. Anyway, Alba Weinmann will, if you're interested in the technique and how it's done, go see her on YouTube. She has a lot of her patients that have given permission for them to be filmed. And it's very interesting. And I'm going to start watching them. Jack was supposed to be here, but Jack's been sick, and I don't know, Scott Balo. Either that or he forgot, it's okay. No biggie. I couldn't do the Hangouts thing anyway. It was like, didn't want to work for me. Now he knows a lot. He's been watching a lot of the videos. So next time he's on, we'll grill him. Okay. We'll just, okay, Mr. Balo, we want to know. Anyway, so I was curious. Have any of you heard of Delores Cannon or QHHT before 6 months ago? It may not be your thing, but still, it's strange. I was talking to my Reiki master teacher. She's in her 80s. She's like 81, although she doesn't look it. Her mother lived to be 103, something like that. And I asked her, have you ever heard of this person? No. And it's a big deal with my Reiki group to read books. She has her own little library we can borrow. Well, like I said, I never heard of it till 6 months ago, and I've never seen any of her 15 or so books, 14, 15 books that she's written. And believe me, the topics on these books would be very eye-catching to me. I would say, oh, that looks interesting. I never even saw them on Amazon. When they come up with a list of books to recommend, from what I was reading, she didn't pop up till just a few months ago. Yeah, it could have been 2. I just was out of the loop, going to school and everything. It's very, very well could have been 2 years, Cupid. But it's certainly not, 50 years. I mean, she would have been like a big deal when we were having all these. We had an older gentleman that was giving us classes, in our Reiki group, giving us extra classes on various topics, and he even past life, never mentioned her. And when they were talking past life and doing past life regressions, they would have mentioned her. She would have been a big deal. Never mentioned, and this was like 6 years ago, 7 years ago. So here we have an interesting thing that way. So what did you experience, Paul? You have an ME like that too? Where someone just pops out of nowhere, like Elon Musk. All of a sudden this guy's, established and everything. I'm going, who is this guy? And everybody believes everything he does. He sent a car up in space with a dummy in it. I'm going, it's on its way to Mars. I'm going, right. Oh, a song. Songs are really interesting, Emmys, aren't they? So you knew a song that didn't pop up again for 30 years? Is that what you're saying? I know we hear about the lyrics changing, little changes. And that's my. Yeah, the changes on my body were just, and the changes on my phone desktop, that's totally different. I can show you that. I think I did last time. Let me see. It didn't have that misty stuff on there originally. It was just the spiral of the clock. Now it has misty stuff, and there's a big bright line at 12. And it's like, okay. And that happened. I got this about a week before the last shift, and then it changed. It's like, okay. And I know that Scott Bailey was talking about how a lot of us were sick around the 20th, and give or take 3 or 4 days around that date. He was sick with a sinus infection, which he hasn't had in years and years. I had tummy trouble, which I never have. I think Scott Harrison had a nasty toothache. I mean, it was just, and people are having headaches and whatnot. And this was just crazy. It is. Frequency and vibration fascinate me, and I'm trying to get educated on that because there's, I had physics embedded in my science classes and my biology stuff and chemistry, but I never took it separately. So the physics, each time we shift in the world, is a little different. Things are a little different. Like the speed of light, I guess, has changed. Air composition has changed. We have more nitrogen in the air now. And of course, the physical changes, the skeletal changes, and the organ changes, and the skull changes, and eye changes, and all that stuff. I never had a dark ring around my iris before. And I think my eyes are also darker in general than they were. So I don't have light blue eyes. I have rather dark eyes, which is, they say, oh, if you have blue eyes or light eyes. I said, well, not necessarily. There's brown eyes that are lighter than mine. They're just a light. Like my ex-husband, his eyes were amber colored, kind of strange. Yeah, the shoulder thing. I don't know if you look at the collarbone, excuse me. And the shoulder girdle, it looks really strange. I took anatomy physiology, and like I said, I aced that class. And it looks so weird. The shoulders are more massive. And the scapula, that's the shoulder blade, is heavier, bigger, and it has this big ridge on it for muscle attachment. So I'm predicting that the muscularity of people is changing, that our muscles are attaching more firmly, and then they have bigger attachments, bigger ligaments. The bones are heavier, and we're just basically, it looks like we're getting designed to be, pretty durable, from what I can tell. I don't have the hexagon. To be honest, that the pupil thing, you can't see it unless it's going from either big to small, small to big. I mean, it's big to small. That's when you see that brief moment. It's a hexagon or something. Mine aren't doing that, so as far as I know. I mean, I do have the dark ring like Scott Harrison and I have eyes almost the same. His are lighter, but I mean, his eyes have that little ring around it too. And our ears have changed, and our cheekbones are. I mean, I had prominent cheekbones, but they're really. I mean, that's not fat. That's muscle. That's bone right there. And if I was thin, I'd look like a diamond. Diamond face. It used to be diamond face. I used to be kind of narrow here, broad, and then back to point. But now that I'm 64, just not quite the same anymore. And so I'm just really have to read some of this woman's books. I have Kindle Unlimited. I'm hoping some of them will be, I can read them without having to buy them. You can't find these kind of books in the library hardly, and as a digital version. They punish the libraries by, when they purchase a digital version, they can only rent it out to so many people. They have they have to buy 5 copies of it, and only 5 can be lent out, and they're also putting taxes on ebooks. It's like, I don't know, is the paper industry paying for this? So, ebooks should be way, way cheaper because they don't have to be manufactured in a physical form and wasting resources. That's our world. It's all about capitalism, sending the money to the top. I think if you look about past lives, and if we've all had them, this whole thing about us, us and them, people who are, pitting people against other people is kind of silly, ridiculous. Since, we've all been everything, supposedly. We've all been men or women. We've all been rich or poor. We've all been good or bad. And it's all here to teach us yeah, I often wonder, all these magazines that don't get purchased. And I'm going, they're just going to throw them away. And it's just we're so wasteful because capitalism is the thing here. It's all about, maximizing profit. And, they should donate those to the homeless or something. I know that paperbacks get donated, but they have to rip one of the covers off. It's like, a lot of things that we do don't make sense to me. It's wasteful. Throwaway time. There's some magazine. There was a magazine at Costco. It was a magazine on keto, I think it was, diet, and they wanted like $20 for it, like it was a book, and it was a magazine. I'm going, I can get a cookbook for less than that on the topic. I couldn't believe it. It's like, wow, that's a lot of money for something that's not durable like a book. And it's like Like, you're not getting my money. Although I would have loved to have it, but it's like, no, I don't think so. And it's like, whatever the market will allow, whatever they can get people that have money to pay. That's the trouble we have with housing prices in Sacramento, is that when San Francisco and the Bay Area discovered us and they started buying houses, then the house prices went up because these people could afford it. And so all the people that live in Sacramento can't afford to buy a house because all the Bay Area people drove up the price. And it's like, well, thank you very much. But that's capitalism. Whatever the market will bear, they will charge. That's why we have cell phones that cost so much, even though after R&D is paid for, after all that stuff is done, and the manufacturer of a phone, what maybe cost, $3 to make it. $1.3 house paid 290 what? 1,000? That's what it would be here, at least. Anyway, my duplex used to be worth $144,000 when it was, back in 92. Now it's worth 400 something thousand. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. And it's like, whatever the market will bear. And capitalism's designed to send the money to the top, to corporations. That's what it's designed to do. So anybody complain about progressive ideas and progressive socialism to offset this monetary system we have. I think, what was it? Was it Stephen Colbert that talked about capitalism plus the progressive ideas to balance it? Because as it is, anybody who doesn't have anything is, it's not good. People die, people go hungry. The homeless problem is ridiculous. Kick the X out. Oh, now. Even my son thinks that's funny. So, I mean, it's capitalism without some other programs added to it. The poorer people are just the drones that provide the machinery underneath the rich people. And our education system encourages that because it keeps you in debt. If you go to get educated, it costs so much money. So most people can't afford to get educated and end up, working jobs that are just no-end jobs and working two jobs. And this is what keeps the rich people rich, really. I mean, who do you think these CEOs are getting all these millions of dollars every year? They're not giving it to the workers. So that's my little complaint about the people that suffer under the system. Anyway, so that's my little rant about, I dislike seeing people who are old and sick and poor struggle to just survive. And that's not a good thing. And back to past life regression, though. That was a little rant there. Forgive me. So this woman, since 1979, has been writing books, 15 books. She talked to Nostradamus, apparently. I don't know exactly how she did that, so maybe we'll have a talk on channeling and who channels and what it is and what's it all about. Once I figure my divorce. I'm separated. My husband lives next door. I had kids to raise, and I supported him while he was on disability. I went to work so we couldn't get good insurance. That's one of the things that, that's why I have this point of view, is that there was a social program that was supposed to help me when my husband lost his job because I was a stay-at-home mom. They called it a displaced homemaker. I went into the welfare people and they didn't tell me about it, even though I was eligible. So I had to do it all the hard way. It took me forever to get a decent job because I didn't have recent work experience. And this was way before Obama. And what happened was I ended up being able to get work. As soon as I got insurance, it took me like 3 years to get insurance good enough so he could find a good doctor and get the right medication, because he's bipolar and diabetic, and his bipolarness and depression and everything totally incapacitated him, and they misdiagnosed him originally as just having depression, anxiety, and they gave him the wrong medication. And if you're bipolar and they give you the wrong medication like that, it makes it worse. And it was a hell on earth here for a while in this household. When I separated from him, he became suicidal, seriously suicidal, but he didn't kill himself because he loved his kids. So the struggle is real. People have these things happen to them that are good people. And I couldn't live with him, but I couldn't leave him either. And I needed him as well. So he was able to get back to work after that. And now we've come to the point, after all these years, we've been separated longer than we've been together. But now we have a relationship that's mutually beneficial and not stressed out. And so we each have our space. I can never be with him again because it's just too much. He was so abusive that some things just are destroyed, and there's not a lot you can do about it. But he's doing great now. And, it's like, well, then why don't you get divorced? I said, well, why should I? I mean, is there a reason to? We're managing, we're surviving. The kids are good. They're all grown. We have our challenges, but we're doing pretty well, thank goodness. We're not rich, but we're managing. And he works very hard, and he's very good at what he does. So, I thought long and hard about that. I was playing words with friends. Just got back on it, and sure enough, some guy puts up this as this picture. Like he's in a dress military uniform giving a speech at a podium, and he starts harassing me. Now he's making scores on words with friends with 6-letter words, bam, 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 bam. I'm just like going, I'm not even getting the letters where I could get 6-letter words. And then he starts harassing me. He wants to do hangouts with me because he needs a woman in his life. And I tell him, I please respect my wishes. I'm not interested in, and he just keeps it up. I finally mute him, and then he stops playing the game. And funny thing, I don't think he was the picture that he put up. They try to target older women to get them to give them things. And I've had this happen on Facebook, and I exposed him, and he was so mad at me. Anyway, he was actually from Africa trying to get me to money launder for him. As if I was born yesterday. But he starts harassing me. It's like going, at my age, I shouldn't have to put up with this. I don't think any woman should have to put up with that kind of behavior from men anywhere, even online. Especially when you say no thank you, But I'm saying there's a lot of fake people out there. And some even on YouTube, they're fake. They just pretend to be something they're not. And they're putting up content that isn't genuine. They're manipulating events to make themselves have something controversial to say. And they have these experiences, and these experiences are all fake. They're all planned. It's like you're watching the reality shows, which are all fake and planned. And so, be wise when you watch things that, watch them with a critical eye. Um, I mean, I won't talk about anything and fake anything I'm just too interesting as I am. I don't need to fake anything at all. Just kidding. But true. I mean, as Oscar Wilde said, be yourself. Everyone else is taken. Been seeing some of the new, there's people that on YouTube just pop up out of nowhere. Have you seen that happen? Where they come out of nowhere and they have like thousands of subs. Now you can buy subs. There are companies that you can buy subscriptions for your channel if you have the wherewithal. And if you have if you're not just one person doing it, you actually have people behind you manipulating things and helping you and paying for things. I think we can say that we've seen a few of those where highly suspect that these people made their own, got all those subscriptions that quickly. When you watch them, you're going, why are they so popular? And, you don't see that many people come into their room when they have a live stream. And it's like something smelly in Denmark, as they say. So, be discriminating. Be discriminating. Make sure that whoever you're watching is being real with you. I would like to do a chat on cryptids. Are any of you interested in that sort of thing? Like Bigfoot, Dogman, Ogopogo. One of my sons lives up in Kelowna, and they have Ogopogo up there in the lake. And like I said, we live in a strange world, and these things are seen by lots of people. Loch Ness is an interesting one. Did you know that Aleister Crowley lived on Loch Ness in a house trying to conjure up demons and stuff? I had no idea. That man was something else. It's like, you wonder where he went when he died, I don't know. I mean, talk about, really, your cousin saw, what did your cousin see, Paul? What did he see? You see the Nessie? We can do one just on, there could be an entire stream on just Loch Ness because of the stories. Wow. There's lots of theories that it's a big eel, because they do have eels, and they eat them. Jellied eels. Sounds lovely, doesn't it? Probably is, actually. And there's been reports of sheep and stuff being eaten by something from the lake, and we could go. I even wrote. Well, I also, Bigfoot. My daughter's a big believer in Bigfoot. She's a biologist, and she says she doesn't understand why fellow biologists are so blind to the huge number of sightings of this being. We may even talk about the connection between UFO sightings and Bigfoot. That's pretty interesting, too. And I noticed that within the last 10 years or less, cryptid stuff has just skyrocketed the number of sightings of all kinds of terrifyingly scary things. And, who knows what Aleister Crowley's conjured up and brought into the world from the spirit side. That's a scary thing in itself. I have a story that's pretty scary that I'll tell next week. Maybe we'll talk about wizards next week. What would you rather see, cryptids or wizards? Maybe they're connected. Maybe the wizards are conjuring up cryptids. Yeah. Yeah, there's lots of, I'm half afraid to go camping now because of you know, cryptids or whatever. Like, so many stories I've heard about people when they're camping. Now, Bigfoot wouldn't be as scary as Dogman, because Dogman, if you want to go dark waters, I belong to that group, and the stories will terrify you. Absolutely terrifying. Well, anyway, I should quit this. Look into Delores Cannon. Look into Alba Weinmann. Look at the books that Delores wrote. I'll put up links so that you can see these things when this gets published. And you can see for yourself, investigate for yourself what you're interested in. Look into guided meditation. That's always a good thing. Past life regression is not for everybody, but it's interesting. And so I find it fascinating, and maybe you will too, just out of curiosity. No reason to keep your mind in a hole in the ground. You can look up and say, "Oh, that's interesting." You can read about things you don't believe in. That's perfectly okay, because it's all information. It helps you understand what other people believe and why they believe it. And the more we understand each other, the better the world will be, I think. So you guys all take care, and it's been a pleasure to see you all in the room here. And keep thinking those good thoughts. I'll just say bye, everyone. Thank you so much for coming in.